there guys, welcome back to ARTFX Studios, and this is part 2 in a video series about mixing and mastering using free plugins. In the last video we talked about the Smart Electronics Ambience Reverb, and we added that to our synths group. Now I forgot one thing, and I'm gonna add it to the piano as well. So let's add it to the piano, about the same amount as the synths group, and now we get this. So it sounds a lot better than before. We now have some more ambience in there. We get a little bit more room sound, a little bit more reverb, and that helps to fill out the spaces that are being created by the sidechain compression. So the piano sounds a little bit more interesting now as well. And I actually can tell a little bit about the piano. The piano is coming from the Roland Uno D, and as you can see I've added a really sharp spike in the EQ. And what I've done, if I open up the piano track and go to that spike in the EQ, which is this one, you can see I've automated that over time, and then I've added a saturator with soft clipping turned on just to tame any peaks that are clipping. And what this is doing, it's actually adding a really narrow band of frequencies, and I'm sweeping that through the frequency spectrum, and what we're getting is sort of like a sound. It sounds almost like a phaser. Listen, this is without. And this is with. So you can hear how that definitely sounds really interesting, and it sounds different than a normal phaser, and I really like to use EQ boosting every now and then. It can definitely spice up your sounds. Let's get to the next free plugin that I want to talk about. I've got a free plugin, and I'm going to add that one to the drums group. So let's go to the drums group. This is the drums group. I've got a loop. I've high-passed the loop. This one adds the sort of like the hi-hats and a little bit more rhythm. Normally I would make this myself out of one-shot hits, but because I don't want to create an entire drum pattern for this demonstration, I just wanted to have a drum loop, so I used the loop. You know, I was lazy. That's it. Then I have a kick drum. I took out a little bit of the low mids, and I used the transient shaper to boost the attack, to give it a little bit more click. So this is without the transient shaper, and that's with. I might be able to take it down a little. Yeah, that sounds good. I took that low mids out because I found them to be a little bit too much. Then I have a final snare drum, or maybe it's actually a clap. A clap layered with a snare, and then I EQ'd the snare out. I EQ'd out the snare because it was fighting a little bit with the kick drum. So I did that. Those are all running through a drum bus group with some, well, really small amount of compression on there. You can see it's just barely touching the gain reduction. Now, what I wanted to do today is I'm gonna go to a folder right here that says Entrus. Entrus is a great company that has really good plugins, although there is a little bit of speculation about if their plugins are good or not. I mean, they are advertised as vintage hardware emulations, I guess. but I can find a lot of people talking about it that actually own the original hardware devices that are saying, well, they sound nothing like the original hardware devices. So if you're looking for a real good emulation of these hardware devices, then definitely these are not the best option. But does that mean that these are bad plugins? I mean, definitely not. They just don't sound like the hardware version that they're trying to emulate. So yeah, if you're looking at it from a perspective like, are these good emulations? No. These are not good emulations of the hardware devices, but they are in fact really good plugins because they sound amazing. And if you know how to use them, and if you know which one sounds like what, then you can use these to spice up your productions. So I wanted to add something to the drums group, and I'm gonna use the modern 1176ME. So let's throw that, let's see, after the glue compressor. No, let's throw it before the glue compressor. Now, this one is actually a emulation of a hardware Universal Audio 1176 classic limiter and compressor. I already told you it sounds nothing like the original compressor by Universal Audio. It, however, does look exactly the same with the interface. I'm going to play this now, and let's see what we can do with this. So right now, it's adding some slight distortion, and it does make everything sound a lot less clean. So let's see what we can do with it. I'm gonna bring the ratio up to, let's say, 12. So now we get a lot of distortion. Let's bring that attack time down to somewhere around there. Let's bring the release down as well. And now we can start here to here that we get rid of that distortion. So now already, by just tweaking the ratio, the attack and the release, I went from this to this. So we are already getting much more low end and a much louder signal from this track already. I mean, and now I can play around with the input and the output. I can take the input down. Maybe add a little bit more attack, and then I can bring the output up. And I can drive it pretty hard, but I want to stay away a little bit from the distortion. So let's just do it like this. So I now went from this to this. So there's a slight change. The hi-hats and the snare become a little bit louder, and the kick drum becomes a little bit louder as well. In its entirety, it's actually adding a little bit of distortion to the sound, which is not a bad thing. I want to have a little bit more grit in this, so let's see how it sounds with the other instruments as well. Let's A/B this. Yeah. It definitely made the drums a little bit more punchy, and it also glued everything together a little bit within the drums group. So that's definitely good. The drums are punching through the mix a little bit better now. I'm gonna bring the input up a little bit more, just so it points at the 30. So we get quite some more out of this now. I can bring the output down a little. Yeah, that sounds really good. I can check out if it sounds better with a higher ratio. we get a lot more punch. That's basically the only difference, and I could bring down the output. Yeah, so that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. I'm gonna put up a link in the description below this video to where you can download the plugin. It's not on the official website of Antris anymore. This was part of the old Vintage Classic series, or the Vintage series, and somehow they don't have that on their website anymore. But there are still some download links to be found, so I'm gonna include the link in the description below this video. You can find it right there. And in the next video, we are going to look at another plugin by Antris. We're going to look at the Modern Analoger, and I'm going to show you how that one sounds and how that one works. And I'm going to show you how you can use that to spice up a group of synths and bass. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you back in the next one. Peace!